Your fitness journey can be a lot simpler, and all you need is one kettlebell. So kettlebells have actually transformed my fitness journey, and in this video I want to talk about how it can help you in yours. So a bit of background, I've been lifting for over a decade, and many of those years were just spent trying out like every single exercise I saw on Google, I saw on YouTube, I saw, in a Men's Health article, just trying everything to think that, okay, I need to add all of these. Oh, this is a must-do exercise. Oh, these are another 7 must-do exercises. This is, I need to do this because this is the best exercise for core, and this is the best exercise for legs. And, it's so overwhelming. And you should use barbells, you should use dumbbells, you should use kettlebells, you should use calisthenics. And it can just be so overwhelming if you're just a regular person trying to create a fitness journey that is sustainable, which is what, we talk a lot about here on this channel. And what I've found over the years is that moving away from that maximalist approach and trying out so many different exercises and moving towards a minimalist approach, specifically with kettlebells, it has really made the fitness journey so much better for me. And it's made it fun, it's made it sustainable, it's taken away a lot of shame away from the fitness journey, which I can get into. And it's just really made it just such a fun experience for me. And I think, unfortunately, because fitness can be so overwhelming, so complex, even convoluted, unfortunately, a lot of people just don't start their fitness journey, or they start, they get burnt out, or they're doing it and they're just not even enjoying it. And, it can be kind of a ticking time bomb of like, are they going to end up stopping it? Are they going to get burnt out? And for me, I found that the kettlebell is kind of this golden key, if you will, to having a fitness journey that you really love. And, an obvious disclaimer here, this is not a prescriptive video. Like, I feel passionate about how a kettlebell can help, but if you love doing what you do, if you love barbells, if you love calisthenics, if you love using machines, then that's awesome. If you're still in the spirit of experimentation, then that's awesome too. Like, keep exploring, keep finding it. And if you find something you love, then that's great. But I think if someone came to me and said they're feeling lost or overwhelmed on their fitness journey, my recommendation is one kettlebell, and I'm going to talk about why. So the first benefit and real reason around using kettlebells is accessibility. So, sometimes this isn't talked about enough, but the gym and, the fitness lifestyle isn't necessarily accessible. Gyms are crazy expensive now. Obviously you have those premier gyms like Equinox that cost like $200, $300, but even kind of a regular bare bones gym in most, kind of areas can be anywhere from $50 to like $120 a month. And, that's really expensive. And so that can just preclude people from even getting started from a financial perspective. And then from a societal perspective, if you're a gender minority or a sexual minority, then you might not feel the most welcome in some of these spaces that tend to be very male dominated and aggressive. And there's a lot of wonderful people in the gym, but the vibe of it can just feel a bit more intimidating for people who might not feel like they necessarily fit in with, the 90% of people that are at the gym. And so, that can be an accessibility issue where they just don't feel the most welcome or scared. They might feel like they might, get made fun of. And, there's just a lot of accessibility issues with just feeling that kind of entrance into the gym. But with the kettlebell, you can just buy one and you have your workout set up at home. You don't need to wear, any fancy gym clothes. You don't need to pay for a gym membership. You don't need to kind of worry about feeling, uncomfortable in your skin or anything like that. Being in one of these public spaces, you can work out from the comfort of your home, at your pace, in your way. And that alone just, opens up the door for you to be able to do your workout how you would like to. So that's, the first benefit. The second benefit is that it's just so minimalist by nature for your workouts. So it's minimalist in three ways. Time, you can get a great workout in a very short amount of time. From a space perspective, you can do all your workouts in one little part of your room. So, and the kettlebell is small relatively to the, rest of the stuff, a whole power rack, squat rack, a bunch of dumbbells, a bunch of machines. It's super small in comparison. So from a space perspective, it's super minimal. And then from an exercise perspective, because all of kettlebell exercises are full body, you only need to really do a handful of them to get, the full body strength training benefits that you would want. Muscle strength, better mobility, better energy, better mood, all of that. You would get that just from a handful of exercises, which is really cool. So yeah, to get a little deeper into those three, sub points. From a time perspective, most kettlebell workouts by nature, because they're full body, you don't need to do that many exercises. So then by nature, your workouts can be about 20 to 30 minutes. Most of my workouts are around that time because every exercise I'm doing is, full body. And then, because you're not lifting to, the absolute, heaviness compared to, using barbells, you don't need to take like 2, 3, 4 minutes of rest between sets. Usually you can take about a minute or a minute and a half. And so you can kind of keep this workout going. And then I find that in that way, kettlebells are really good for your cardio and really good to just have that all around health. And yeah, again, in just a short amount of time. And then yeah, from a space perspective, you only really need a handful of space. You can put down a yoga mat, do your workout. You could be watching TV at the same time, listening to some music. You can kind of do it while other things are going on. You don't need to move all your furniture around. And that alone just makes such a big difference because, I think one of the biggest issues with getting started on your fitness journey is just that kind of, all these walls we put up I gotta, if I get dumbbells at home, then I gotta set up a whole rack and, make space in the garage or another room, or I have to go to a gym or I have to set up a whole squat rack and that's gonna take up so much space. Kettlebell, you just put in your closet and then you take it out and you can just do it right in the living room, which is awesome. And then from an exercise perspective, getting a little bit more specifics, there's just a handful of, exercises you can do that are great with the kettlebell. So it's, you can do the kettlebell squat and there's variations. There's kettlebell cleans, kettlebell presses, there's kettlebell carries, and then kettlebell swings. There's quite a few more, but just those 5 alone can kind of cover, what you need for just, general day-to-day health. You can always add your pull-ups and your push-ups and body weight squats and things like that. But, if you're not trying to optimize, if you're just trying to stay healthy and get the general benefits of strength training, you only need to pick a couple exercises. I have a video titled "You Only Need 2 Exercises" where I do kettlebell clean and press and kettlebell carries, and that's pretty much my workout, and I've been doing that for years now. So yeah, I absolutely love the just minimalist nature of kettlebells. And then the third benefit is that they're just a lot of fun. Yeah, what you'll find with kettlebells compared to other equipment in the gym is that it's fast moving, it's explosive, it's more dynamic. So instead of just going, you're picking something up and bringing it from point A to point B, you're swinging it with a kettlebell swing. With a clean, you're taking it from the ground and you're kind of swinging it into your arm. When you press it, there's kind of a big range of motion. It's not just like this, it's, all the way up. And then when you do squats, you can hold it here, you can hold it here. You can just do all types of different variations of squats. When you do carries, you can walk around with the kettlebell. So it just feels a little bit more fun because there's just a dynamic component of there's this kind of cannonball that you just are trying to move around in dynamic ways, and you're trying to get better at the form, and it's it takes kind of a while to get through a workout. One of my favorite circuits, and I don't do this too much because it can just be actually pretty intense, is I'll do a kettlebell clean, a press, a squat, put it down, switch sides, a clean, press, and squat. And that's just as super tiring, but like a lot of fun, just because, with this one thing, you kind of just keep the movements going and kind of have this flow. And in that way, it almost feels like doing like a yoga flow, which you don't really hear that term being applied to strength training, but it can really feel like that. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun trying to get better at some of these movements. And I think that's also where the fun comes from, is that you're not just trying to like, okay, I just need to build my legs or build my arms. You're like, oh, I want to get more like, I want to have more smoothness with my clean and press, or like, I want to wobble less when I'm doing my kettlebell carries. And it starts to just feel like this fun activity that you're trying to get better at, like the skill, just like, getting better at a game of chess or something like that. And I just have so much fun when I go into my workouts trying to do that. So yeah, I would say that's a third benefit. And if you end up trying it, I can't guarantee you're going to have fun, but I think it's a lot of fun. And honestly, you see some people online getting really creative, sometimes making up their own movements with the kettlebell, which I haven't tried, but there's some really cool stuff that you can get into. But don't need to intimidate you with that. You can just start with a couple exercises. So I would say the fourth benefit is that it's just a really well-rounded tool for fitness. So essentially with the kettlebell, you really get a great mix of strength and cardio, and even a little bit of flexibility and mobility. So, with a lot of types of workouts, it can just be focused on one. So, if you're using barbells, you're getting stronger. If you're running, you're building your cardio. If you're doing certain types of yoga, you're really building your flexibility. And again, I say certain types because there's actually a lot of types of yoga that build all of these types of things. But there's a lot of workouts the goal is just to achieve one thing. But with kettlebells, because you're not lifting the heaviest thing you can be, you're still building that strength because it's moderately heavy. And then because the rest periods tend to be shorter with the type of workouts you might be doing, you'll build actually some really great cardio. And then because of that dynamic full body nature, you'll even find some flexibility. I actually found that with clean and press, I actually got my shoulders became a lot more flexible. With doing kettlebell squats, my legs became a lot more flexible. With kettlebell carries, I just felt like my hips were a lot more mobile. And so I just saw a lot of benefits in multiple avenues with the kettlebell, which was really cool. And I think, again, with that efficiency thing, it's hard to create a workout schedule where, one day is for flexibility, one day is for strength, one day is for cardio, and then you have to repeat, and then you're trying to just work out 5 to 6 times a week just to kind of have a decent workout schedule. This is kind of like it's like a Swiss Army knife. It's like all in one. And you're not going to necessarily become the strongest person or the fastest person or the most flexible person, but that's not the goal here, right? That the goal here is to just have a sustainable, balanced fitness routine. And I think the kettlebell can go more into just the typical strength benefits, but go into all of these different benefits that I think is really great. So yeah, those are the 4 benefits for kettlebells that I found. You only really need one. So for some practical advice, you can get a few because obviously different exercises require different things. But if you just start with a moderate kettlebell, one you can maybe press overhead, anywhere from like 5 to 8 times, then you can use that for clean and press. You can use that for squats of higher reps. You can carry it for a couple minutes. You obviously, if you have maybe 3 or 4 kettlebells, then you can really be like, okay, I like this weight exactly for this exercise. But generally, if you just have one, you can do all the exercises. And if the weight feels, say you have a 20-pound weight and that feels pretty good for your presses and it feels a little light for your carries, you just go a little longer. It's not saying you only should have one and you should never get a second one, but like you only really need one and you can kind of make your workout work for a lot of different exercises. And so yeah, I would say start with one kettlebell that feels moderately heavy, 5 to 8 presses overhead. Yeah, and there's a lot of companies out there that specialize in selling kettlebells, and they're really a lifetime purchase. So that would be a great place to start. And even if on the front they might be on the slightly more expensive, they might be like a month or 2 months of a gym membership, but they're meant to last for 30, 40 years. And there should be some budget kettlebell companies out there. And, if it would be helpful, I can make another video or even a post just going into specifics of different kettlebells at different budgets. happy to do that if that would be helpful. So yeah, that's my recommendation. Get one kettlebell and you're set for life. So yeah, let me know if you found this video helpful, if you were struggling with your getting started or feeling overwhelmed or just a little bored with your routine. So actually this video was inspired because multiple people have told me now that they bought their first kettlebell and started working out because of these videos, which that's really cool, like even more than, the subscribers and views. The fact that, this channel is helping people get started and specifically, get started with the kettlebell a lot of times because, that's what I like to use. But I've even heard people get started just with their regular routine or, all of that. And so this inspired me to be like, okay, yeah, let me talk more about the specific benefits of the kettlebell because people are already buying them based off the video. So yeah, that's really cool. Just knowing that the channel is making an impact on people in this way. I just want to really help people, get their fitness journey started. That's more important than views and subscribers. Which, I'm human, those obviously feel good, but when people tell me they started working out again, or working out for the first time because of my videos, words can't really describe how great that feeling is. That's really awesome. So yeah, comment below your experience with kettlebells or just getting started, or if you have any equipment recommendations that made the fitness journey just better for you. And if you like this video, please consider subscribing and sharing with your communities. It helps a lot. We're starting to close in more on 700 subscribers, which is really cool. I've just been really excited to see the continuous growth of the channel and hearing all of your experiences. And then another thing is I've started doing Q&A videos, which I think my goal is to eventually get to the point where I get enough questions where I can do Q&A videos every week for you all. I just did the first one, and so you can check that out on my channel. But if you have any questions about anything fitness related, please comment them, I guess, on any of my videos. And I read all the comments, so I'll be sure to get to it and add it to the next Q&A video. And yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you for the next one.